Hello, everybody. All right, in this video, I'm going to go over how to graph log and exponential functions and all of its characteristics. Now, make sure before you continue with this video, you have already watched the video with the title Transformations and Some Characteristics of Log and Exponential Functions, because I will be going through certain characteristics a little quicker, assuming you've already seen that video. All right, looking at our first example, it says f of x equals 2 to the power of x plus 2. So this is obviously exponential. So I have to determine if it's a growth or decay. Since it's going up from left to right, it's growth. And as you remember from before, your domain is always going to be negative infinity to positive infinity. And then your range, if you remember from the previous video, I'll say the cheer again, starting from the bottom to the top, that's where it starts and where it stops. So as you can see, the bottom of my graph is at this asymptote, this blue dotted line, and that asymptote is at x equals 0. Sorry, y equals 0. And so, as you can see, the arrow pointing up goes all the way to positive infinity. So my range is going to go from 0 to infinity. Now my x-intercept, if you look at the x-axis, it doesn't cross it at any point, and that's simply because that's where the asymptote is. So for my x-intercept, I'm going to have to write none. My y-intercept, I'm going to look at my y-axis, and I see it crosses it at this point right here. So my y-intercept is 0, 4. Now my end behavior, looking on the left side. Remember, as x approaches negative infinity, which is always going to be on that left side, your y, or f of x, is getting closer and closer to my asymptote, which is at 0. So it's going to approach 0. Now looking on the right side of my graph, as x approaches positive infinity, and that's because all these numbers over here are positive, my arrow, which is pointing up, is going to positive infinity. So f of x approaches positive infinity. All right, now let's look at another function, but this time it's a logarithmic function. The domain for my logarithmic functions, and remember, hopefully you have watched the previous video to know what I'm talking about, but as you can see from left to right, on the left side I have this asymptote that's at x equals 0. And then on the right side I have this arrow pointing all the way to positive infinity. So my domain is going to go from 0 to infinity. And as you can recall from before, my range is always negative infinity to positive infinity for logarithmic functions. All right, for my x-intercept, looking on the x-axis, it crosses it at this point, which is 4, 0. And my y-intercept, well, I don't have one because it never crosses over the y-axis because that's where my asymptote is. So I will say none. And then for my end behavior, on the left side of this graph, as x approaches, well, it stops right here at your asymptote where x is 0, that blue dotted line. So I'm going to say as x approaches 0, my f of x approaches negative infinity because the arrow is pointing down. And then on the right side of my graph, as x approaches positive infinity, because obviously these numbers are all positive, my f of x approaches positive infinity because the arrow keeps going up and up and up. And that's it.